Excuse me. Aloha. There we go. I'm your host, Janet Karen Lessin. This is, UFO Secret Space. And today I'm on with my co-host, Sean Fowler, and our guest is Penny Bradley. And let me tell you a little bit about today's show. Penny Bradley survived mind fracture at Langley and has reintegrated 300 of over 2,200 alters that the CIA created. Those alters were used in various space-related black ops, including serving with the German Militia, and I'm going to massacre this name, Marsische Heimschild on Mars and in deep space with both the German fleet, Nacht Waffen, and the mercenary group Kruger. Penny talks about the interactions between the various SSP factions and their alliances and the ongoing wars with space. And our new co-host is, I just clicked it, is Sean Fowler, and now I accidentally clicked it. Here we go. 1 second, I can read a little bit about him. He is, he's in the secret space. I don't have Sean's story. We're going to be telling Sean's story on the 28th of this month. The dude comes back on Wednesday, but he's been down the rabbit hole. He began remembering traumatized, began having memories of traumatized events that started between the ages of 5 and 6, and he started to question his own sanity. And on July 13th, 2014, he awoke to his the truth about the experimentation. Anyway, he was part of this Montauk group. I'm not going to go through it. It's a long bio. You're invited to go over to aquarianradio.com and, take a look at the bio. I have pictures, and I'll be putting a little bit more information up there after the show. Plus, the link to the show will be live after, so if you didn't catch it live, you guys can go over and watch it later. Okay, so I'm going to bring on Sean real quick. Are you there, Sean?
That's correct.
Okay, a little bit of sound check. Say hi to our listeners, and you want to tell them just a little bit more about yourself. I couldn't quite read your bio. It had clicked off. Go ahead.
Oh, me?
Would you like to tell them briefly, a little bit about who you are?
Well, with me, I also, Penny was just discussing before we went on live about the alters, and you explained about the alters. Me, I deal with the same thing. I'm decompartmentalized. I deal with relationship issues. I don't really have too full of memory of some of my abductions by the extraterrestrial race of the Greys, as well as the reptilians in underground bases, and being strapped to chairs in these underground bases and being poked, basically, used like a pin cushion type thing going on. I then woke up to some, memories that were actually, me speaking as being an honest person, were actually not those memories, because I had a friend of mine who does healing work, and hypnotherapy actually helped me figure out that some of what I thought was the truth was not the truth. It was blocked by a lie to make me try to go against somebody that could actually help me rather than hurt me. And it goes deep. It goes into I got into the paranormal investigating as well. So I am one to say that, yes, spiritual attack is real. I sold my soul to the devil. I rescinded my contract. But during the time that I was under complete possession, I was physically abusive to my significant other. And I mean, it's crazy that she's even with me right now. Like, it's amazing, and we have a beautiful child together, but I still have to live with, some of the stuff that I did to her because of past trauma due to the
Right.
programming at such a young age.
Well, we're going to go into that in greater depth in the course of this show. So Penny's been on several times, so we're going to go back to Penny, and Penny's going to share what's up with her, what's new, and a little bit of her backstory. And then we'll let her talk for about 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll do some talking amongst the three of us. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
You there? Yeah.
I'm here.
How you feeling? You're feeling okay. You're not the top of the world, but you're with us, and we're glad you're here. We're so appreciative of you coming on the show today.
I've been in better shape when I was on your show, yes, but I'm here, and I'm not trying to be a pain. So, okay, we talked about it earlier today, but last night I was picked up and spun. Part of the process, part of the process of creating alters is a method to keep you from reintegrating them. And I had reintegrated too many. In fact, the last one I reintegrated, they didn't want me to because they wanted to pull her back up for another tour. And so they put you in a machine that's similar to a centrifuge. You know how they used to test astronauts to see if they could handle how many G's they could handle before they passed out?
Mhm.
You remember that?
Yes.
The machine they put us in to spin us is similar. I think it's a little smaller, but it's similar. And what it does is it forces your brain to separate out and makes the inside kind of empty. But it makes it where you can't reintegrate for a while until that releases itself. And I knew that my brain was shaped like that. I had a stroke in labor with my youngest in '84, and they had done a CAT scan. They didn't have MRIs yet then, but they did a CAT scan to test me, and they found this, and they go, whoa. And they tried to scare me into surgery. They tried to tell me it was hydrocephalus, but it wasn't. It was I had been spun. And so my brain has been in this configuration since at least 1985 when they took the first CAT scan. So
wow.
This is not a new phenomenon, but apparently they do it every so often to keep me from reintegrating more. But Valky had served in Kruger and had
That
been...
is Valky.
Valky is my nickname for the altar.
Okay.
She had served in Kruger as a fighter pilot and as a technician on the sensor array on a Kruger battle station. And this little Nacht Waffen spy ship was based on the battleship. And the commander of it would watch me. And it's someone that I know from the group. And he finally, I guess about 5 years into her tour, he recruited her for Nacht Waffen because he wanted her on the spy ship. Part of the reason he wanted her was because she didn't have a military bearing, the posture and attitude.
Right.
Which Nacht Waffen officers do have that. That's part of their training. But that particular altar had been trained Kruger and did not have a military bearing. And Kruger doesn't educate their people. They train them for what they need them to do. That's it. So they have no...
That's it, right.
They're like street urchins. And so she was very rough compared to Nacht Waffen people. and she spoke English, which he could also speak English, so he slowly taught her German. She served on the Nacht Waffen spy ship for 15 years. She was sent home last December, about the 15th. And it was very traumatic for her. She wasn't sent home through the usual means where that she had a mind wipe and all that. She was in a clone body, so they executed the clone to send her home. And she had been told she would go to Valhalla. And when she showed up here, back in my head, she goes, okay, I can buy Lou as Odin. You know, because he's got white hair and he's blind in one eye. So I can buy Lou as Odin, but there's no way in hell that you are Freya.
Okay, so she's saying that Lou could be Odin, but you're not Freya. That's funny.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry. So what happened? What happened to you?
She had been sitting in here.
Back? So
she came back and she was mortified at how disabled I am. I mean, you saw me at the conference last year. You know, I'm not in that great a shape, and I've only gotten worse since then. And she was mortified by the shape I'm in, but you got to understand they kept her at age 25 the whole time she was in service, and I'm 63. So I'm what she would be 40 years down the road. And so she's been mortified by how sick I was, how disabled I was, and how educated I am. Because I've been to college, you know, it shows when I talk. And she wasn't. And so she's like, we've had this struggle going on, and the person that she served under is in the SSP group. And so she would talk to him. She would use my body and talk to him, and he couldn't remember things. And he actually came up with, I think it was in May. It was either April or May. He came up with that she had been a disgrace to the uniform. And it broke her heart. And she decided to reintegrate. It wasn't my choice. And so
she reintegrated with you. Are you the primary in this system?
I'm the primary, yeah. Penny, as you know her, is the cover altar, the primary, the one that is living on Earth, that did not know about any of them until 2013, when an NSA agent activated my memories. Valky is just the most recent one, and that was, I call her that because that's what the commander called her. That was his pet name for her. So, but yeah. She was a first lieutenant whenever that she was sent home. She had been as highest commander in Kruger.
So how do you reintegrate and alter into your, I mean, you've got 2,200 of them. So this is one that shows up. Were you doing something inconvenient when she showed up? Were you driving down the road or up on stage presenting? What happened? When did she show up? What was going on in your life? Were you eating dinner?
I was sitting on Facebook.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, wham, she's there. And I'm like, hi. This is not the first time she had shown up, though. She had been killed during her time in Kruger. as a fighter pilot. Her ship had been hit with something that shattered her computer screen, and her skin was shredded through her spacesuit. And so she bled out. And because the clone she was in was dead, she popped back here. And I thought she was going to stay, because that had been my experience with the others, is they stay if the body they're in is dead. Nope, 32 hours later they came back and got her, popped her into another one. But because she had been here, we had a connection. And so I would wake up piggybacking in her, which is really a bizarre feeling. You're there, but you're not in charge.
Piggybacking.
You wake up inside her, and you're not on Earth. And she got killed a second time because she'd gotten infected with some sort of a virus. And they decided the easiest way to treat it was to kill the clone she was in and put her in a new body. She was also having a lot of trouble with the surgically implanted exoskeleton that Kruger uses. And it never fit right. It was always painful, and apparently nothing could be done about it. And so they put her into a third body, and that's the one that served in Nacht Waffen. And it did not have the exoskeleton, so that was wonderful. Nacht Waffen doesn't do that. So
this is a different audience.
What the exoskeleton does is it makes you able to carry more weight, and it makes it where that if you know how human spines are really kind of fragile? The exoskeleton makes it where you have all the flexibility, but you can carry more weight. And like if you get a major impact directly on the top of your spine, it will transfer that impact into the exoskeleton instead of crushing your spine.
Right. I wanted you to give a little backstory, because this is a different audience than the Revolution Radio audience that we've exposed you to. I just realized this is probably the first time this audience has heard your story. And I know the first time Sean...
Okay, then let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah, we don't
all
have
right.
to go...
At the beginning, what we have here is there is an ET group. I'm pretty sure it's the Draco, but not 100% positive. That has laid claim to Earth, and they are terraforming it for their benefit. And humanity's survival is not a positive outcome to them. So, President Eisenhower was the president who was first informed of this, and he gave the CIA carte blanche to... The thing I read online said, do whatever it takes to make sure some of us survive this. Now, the CIA is not the people that I would give that to, but that's who he chose. And so 3 years later, I was born. And while my mom was pregnant with me, they modified my DNA. And, of course, her doctor cooperated with letting them know she was pregnant because national security in the 1950s and 60s, that would cover anything. I think sometimes it still does. But
Sean,
I was chosen.
What's
Sean,
that?
back up from the mic. You're breathing into the mic. If you could back up a little bit, that'd be good. Okay,
yeah, it was
that's
weird
good. Okay,
she
continue.
spoke about Kruger. That's
okay.
on my Skynet file.
Okay. Okay, so what happened was the CIA started a thing that's now called DARPA, but in those days it was called military laboratories. And they had certain families that they wanted to work with because their genetics allowed them to go into space. And they had psychic abilities, which a lot of the people don't have psychic abilities because they went through and tried to kill off all the witches. So that took the psychic ability out of the bloodline. So they hunted down the bloodlines that still had psychic abilities. And my mom is psychic. And so they hunted those people down, and when those women they were all married. When they got pregnant, their doctors turned in they were pregnant. And so then they would abduct the women and make them these guys, when the first few times they abducted me, they were wearing these cheesy costumes that made them look like reptilians. And you're so scared at first that you don't even notice the difference. But after a while, it's like, oh, guy, it's you again. And, you start playing with the zipper in their costume. And after that, they stop bothering with the costume. But they were humans, military, CIA, Black Ops. They wore black fatigues. And they would have a patch on the shoulder for what unit they belonged to, but I was a kid for most of them, so I don't remember. But they messed with my DNA before I was even born. So then, when I was 4 years old, they came and got me. It was the summer of 1959, and they picked me up out of my house, and they hauled me all the way cross country from Central California to Langley, Virginia. And I was a guest of the CIA at Langley, Virginia for 5 years. And the first year and a half or so was mind fracture, where they produced the 2200 alters. Now, what happens to cause an alter is that they torture a child. It doesn't work with adults. Adults go catatonic instead of producing alters. So they have to torture a child to get alters. And from the studies I've read, and these are CIA studies and these are professional psychologist studies, the kinds of things that Sasha would have been reading. They state that sexual abuse is the most common cause of alters in children. Well, mine, if I remember them in the right order, they started with drowning so that I would breathe the fluid in the regeneration tank. The regeneration tank is ET technology. It came from the Mansids, and Langley had a tank. So their attitude was they didn't care if they killed us, they didn't care if they hurt us, they didn't care what they did, because if we were too damaged, they would just dump us into the tank. They were so harsh. They were so harsh with us that 80% of us were dead at the end of the first year. And by the way, Randy Kramer is in the U.S. Space Marines, and he says that my figures of 80% death rate are consistent with what he has seen from their records.
So when they die,
I'm not the only one.
Let me clarify death, because you die and you're rejuvenated, and they can bring back the dead. And is there a point where they can't bring them back anymore? Is that what you're saying?
When the mind stops cooperating and becomes catatonic, they can't bring you back. And at that stage, they just dump you in the incinerator, still alive. So 80% of us were catatonic and dumped in the incinerator at the end of the first year. And we ranged from 4 to 8 years old. So once they had the required number of altars, which was 2,200, then they sent me to Montauk for 6 months. Because in those days, they were still mapping the timeline. And you had to go through the chair before you could go into space. And so many of us died in the time tunnel that they didn't want to waste time training us first. So we were mind-fractured and then sent to Montauk. And that was where they found out that I could travel interdimensionally. And they were really mad about it. But the Draco that sits in the corner there, he kept them from killing me because he said I was more valuable because I could do that.
Right.
Now, the reason is that was more valuable is that almost all the navigators on ships for all of the human ships, almost all the navigators are Draco. And even among the humans that have been shot up with Draco DNA like I was, it's very rare to find navigators. Regular humans can't do it. It has to be a hybrid to do it. And so not even 5% of the hybrids can do it. So we're talking about a very rare quality. It's not something anybody and everybody can do. And so the Draco made sure that the guys running Montauk didn't kill me. And so when I was sent back to Langley to be trained.
Is that the metagene that you talked about previously, the metagene that they're looking for?
The metagene is what they're looking for in the initial candidates. Not all humans have it, but those that do were the ones they were looking for. It used to be that all humans had some, but they've killed off witches since, the 1400s? They've gotten rid of a lot of it. So, where was I? Okay, back at Langley. You've all watched Stranger Things and Firestarter and have the idea of what the CIA can modify people to do, right? Okay, so my particular skill set included being able to blow up things with my mind, being able to start fires with electronics, being able to access electrically controlled weapons, being able to interface with electronics, computers included, with or without extra technology, and to be able to take myself and whatever I was connected with into other dimensions. I'm telepathic, but Draco style, where it's full intimacy. And I prefer to not get in other people's heads. So I do use shielding. I have found that sitting here without shielding, I really don't need to know when the neighbor 3 doors down needs to go to the bathroom. You know? So most humans are monkey mind. They don't really think. They just, everything that pours through, they think it's important, and they examine it and play with it. Ooh, something else. And I really don't want to listen to that. So I use a lot of shielding. If you have a telepathic connection with me, it means you're a really special person that I let in. And if you abuse that, you'll find yourself blocked. I try not to get into people's heads. I don't need to know all that crap. I've done a lot of work on myself to shut up that monkey mind. I thought I was just like everybody else, and I did all this work and had no effect. And then I got the barrier cap. It's like a Faraday cage in a cap form. It's nylon embedded with nickel, so it's a metal hat. And it stopped the synthetic telepathy that the CIA uses, and it was amazing because after 30 years of hearing them in my head, it was suddenly zen and quiet. All this work I had done, my head was quiet. It was miraculous. That $60 cap was the best $60 I've ever spent. But yeah, at Langley, after Montauk, they taught me how to use all those skills. But we didn't interact with each other. We didn't interact with other kids. We were kept in small rooms in solitary and never knew whenever that we were going to be beaten or worse. If we didn't perform to standards during the training, we would be electrocuted, and I mean in an electric chair, not with cattle prods, and we'd still end up in regeneration. And all of us that were in the programs have at least one sex slave altar, so those were trained too. And I mean, boys included. So all of these people that talk about being super soldiers, they all have a sex slave altar. Every single one of them.
You're 100%
correct. So that's not
correct.
like I'm special. That's all of us.
That's part of it. So could Sean ask you a question or two, and then we'll make a little note of where you are. So we're starting to talk about the sex slave
Janet,
altar.
it was like I was sitting there, and I was like, it was weird, like I was visioning this whole thing, this whole experience, and I'm like, oh boy, because like I was born in 1987, and I have memories of Montauk, and I got several, other psychics that said that I died in the chair in a past life. However, I did go back there. Also, the sex slave altar thing with super soldiers. Yeah, honestly, yeah, we do have that. Because I used that on my fiance, and it scared her to death. And she was going through spiritual attack herself. And I do believe that we need to try to get away from that, those missions. I try to ground myself as much as possible and stay healing. I'm tired of them taking me. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, I've been taken, I don't know how many times, and I can't fully remember anything.
Well, you can't
do you have
fully
a question
remember
for Penny? Yeah, go ahead, Penny. Yeah. try to help him out here because he's just getting his memories.
You can't fully remember any of it. I had memory reactivated in April of 2013, and it took me a good 3 years to figure out what it all was because it came in one big lump and it was all in German because that first altar only spoke German. And I had to do research to figure out what I was remembering because it was a lot of it. There was no way it was part of my normal Earth life. Penny didn't live this, and that particular altar is Lieutenant, or actually Leutnant, Oberleutnant Penelope Valkyrin.
Can you explain why the German connection? Why you were German?
That's a whole show. I'm being honest here. That's a whole show.
I know. We will do all the shows. We will do all the shows, yes. But for this one...
Okay, the German connection is because the Germans made it into space first. They were not the Nazis. I'll say that right off the bat. I do not call them Nazis. They are the Germans in space. Whenever they already had their early space program during World War I, Hitler had nothing to do with it. The Nazis were not even an idea yet. These were the Germans. And most of them were Teutonic Knights. And there was a secret order that came out of the Teutonic Knights that was called the Order of the Black Sun. And they had subdivisions, one of which was called the Tula, which was the men, and the other one was the Frill, and that was the ladies. If you do research, look up Maria Orsich. She was in Frill, and she was doing what today we would call CE5, and she was channeling extraterrestrial entities from Aldebaran and the Draco. And that she mixed with books that the Tula had about how to build vimanas. And that's from a Hindu holy book that they got, I believe it was in Nepal. And so between the three sources, she was building her own ship. Well, by the time she had it pretty much put together, Hitler's people showed up and said, "We're going to take your ship." And she said, "No, you're not. You can have a copy, but you're not taking this one." And so she had hers built before World War II. Okay, so we're not talking about Nazis here. We're talking about German aristocracy. We're talking about Teutonic Knights. So they were starting into space then. And they thought, okay, Hitler's in power. He's got jobs going for the people. He's reinstituted our industrialization. Let's see if we can use him. That was their attitude. And about halfway through the war, they figured out he was an idiot, and they moved the space program to Antarctica. And by the time that Admiral Byrd found them in 1947, Hitler had already lost the war for Germany. But the Germans in Antarctica were allied with the Draco, and they were allied with the Agarthans, who are from a huge cave in inner Earth. And when Admiral Byrd showed up, someone had a saucer-shaped ship that they used a laser on it to cut a battleship in half. The battle was over in a half an hour or less. And Admiral Byrd went home and told Congress in 1947 that the next war would be fought with ships that could go from pole to pole in a matter of minutes. So the Germans in Antarctica wanted a peace treaty. You know, they wanted the war to be over. And it took till 1953 to get one from Ike. And they did that by buzzing the White House with their ships. So if you look back in the history books, you'll find where that the UFOs were buzzing the White House 2 weekends in a row. Those were the Germans.
Right.
And they got a peace treaty, part of which was that America had to provide them with 150,000 Americans to man their space program every year, because they knew they didn't have enough genetics to run their program. There weren't enough of them. And so they wanted to include us as part of their colonies.
So they have to have enough genetic diversity for their programs. If they have two,
you have to have some genetic diversity, or else you end up with a bunch of inbred idiots.
Right. Okay.
That's reality. You know, look at the Crownheads of Europe, how inbred they are, and they end up with hemophilia and idiots that go crazy, and their bottom jaw disappears, and it's because they're inbred. So the Germans didn't want that. So they were looking for genetic diversity. And that's another reason to prove they're not Nazis. So they don't want to inbreed with ETs either, even if they look human. They wanted to be Earth human out there, but they didn't care what variety of Earth human. So what happens is the CIA shot us all up with Draco. So the Germans couldn't use us for that. So they put us all in the military. So they did use us for their military, but they couldn't use us for their colonies. So whenever I talk about that they called me a misgeburt, translates to abortion that lived, it's because I had been shot up with Draco. The farther along I get in this story, the more I remember things. And at first I thought, I bought into this Nazi propaganda that it was because my grandmother was Jewish. But the more I remembered, no, it was because I was shot up with Draco. And they couldn't use me in their population. So I was kept away from the civilians. I was never anything but military. And so in 1964, when I was 9, what was left of my class, and I had an NSA agent contact me 2 years ago, and she says, "Oh yeah, you were in the Langley class of 64. You're the last one of your class left." And that mortified me on 2 points. One, that they considered that a class whenever it was tortured. And secondly, because all of us were dead but me. And the third thing was that she thought she had the gall to contact me on Facebook with a photocopy of her credentials and think that I was supposed to obey her. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to obey.
This alter Penny, who lives in California, does not work for any government agency. Period.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm about as anti-government as you can get without fostering rebellion. So, but yeah.
Do you have a question for Penny? Sean, do you have a
Somebody
question
has
for
a question?
Penny? You have a question for Penny? Sean, you there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm listening.
Yeah,
I'm like so
Penny?
intrigued.
I know you're probably getting triggered, but that's okay. You'll be fine.
Well, I wouldn't say triggered, but it's kind of funny because I'm always thinking I'm supposed to have all these memories, and yeah, I actually went and researched. I grew up on the eastern end of Long Island when I woke up to this dream in 2014 of being by a tower by the water. I did not need directions to get to this place. I did not need any kind of help whatsoever. I got there and I saw, first off, it was late at night. I was out there between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m. And I saw a Draco in the tree. And that freaked me out. Not enough, though. I still kept going. And then I had missing time several times going back. And then finally, when I almost died on the property, my fiance had to drag me off because I went in front of the radar dish and I got zapped. And when I got zapped, I hit the ground and I just got all these memories of these reptilians surrounding these tables, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, these beings eat babies. It's
Are you
disgusting.
sure the real memory and not a cover memory?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are you sure that's a real memory and not a cover memory? Because I've been counseling with people for, feels like forever, but I guess it's 3 years. And one of the things that we have found is that all of our memories have a screen memory or a cover memory over them. That you have to go, when you go through the memory, you have to be kind of in a trance or almost hypnotized mode and ask yourself, what's the truth behind it?
Okay. I actually am
when you process
with
your
a few
memories,
people.
you have to do that. What's the truth behind this? Because when they sent us home, they screwed with everything. They put cover memories on. I have memories at Langley where everyone's invisible from the hips up. They let me have the memories of their legs. They did not want me to recognize those people at all, ever.
Wow.
So they screw with your head. So you have to do this in steps. Remember what you remember, and then say, and what was the truth behind that? I have years of every Friday dreaming I was a mermaid in a kelp bed. And underneath that cover memory was an abduction, usually for a 60 and back.
Right.
So.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm planning on going through some hypnotherapy. This
particular rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper and deeper. I have not yet found the bottom.
Wow.
Every time I think I found the bottom, the floor falls out from under me again, and I find something else. And they have not stopped
like a new learning lesson. Yep.
They have not stopped taking me. They took me last night.
Oh gosh. It
was whichever agency was responsible for spinning me took me last night. And they don't even bother making sure I'm unconscious whenever they show up. They have a portal that they open in my hallway, and they come through the bedroom door. They haul me out of my bed and take me for however long and then bring me back to basically within 5 minutes, real time.
Mm.
So there's no time to be missing. The closer they get it back to the time that they took me, the less I remember of what happened. But I'll get really strong flashes of scenes, like myself in the centrifuge. So I knew what that was about. That's to make it where I can't reintegrate anymore because I reintegrated Valky. So, but yeah, I got sent to Mars in '64, and I was 9, and they put me in Schule, that's German school, for 10 years. So in '74, they put me behind the cockpit of a fighter jet. Well, it wasn't a jet, it was a plasma engine, but a fighter plane on Mars. It looked like an F-15, but it had plasma engines instead of jets, and it had no windows. It had a screen where you could see what was directly in front of you on the screen, and you were chipped into the computer, and it gave you basically a 360 view of everything around the ship, where you were the ship. And there was a hand panel, like a mouse but shaped like your hand, and you moved your hand on that to move the ship. And it was a mind link to the ship. There was a chip that looked like a Bluetooth that they had behind my left ear. It actually plugged into my skull. So it wasn't something easily removable. It was plugged in, and that's how I flew the ship. And nobody else could fly the ship because I was the one that was chipped into it. It was like my key. Like I was the key. And so my job on Mars was to fly over the planet, a assigned sector at a time, and look for raptor nests. Raptors are one of the sentient life forms on Mars, and we were at war with them then. The Germans started the war, I should say. And so this was a genocide we were performing on a native race. And part of my job was to make sure that they got taken out. And if it was too many for my weapons to take them all out, I was supposed to call in help. And in between that duty, I was on ghoul duty, where I was to find human remains and bring them back to base, where they would be put through the regeneration tank. And there are Mars native humans, and my computer read them as us. So we brought back a lot of them. Apparently the raptors liked to eat them. And the other thing I did
about the raptors?
The raptors are about 7 feet tall, and they're green and brown, sometimes striped together, sometimes solid. They have arms like humans, except 3 fingers with 6-inch claws. and they look like velociraptors out of Jurassic Park, except they have human arms. And they speak. They are normally telepathic, but they speak. They speak German as well as we did. And they are a spacefaring race that has been returned to the Stone Age. They are not a primitive people. They are an advanced race that has been shoved back. And they're in an unarmed fight, they will win every time. They're taller than us, they're bigger than us, they're better armed in their bare selves. You know, they'll win every time. So when the Earth humans on Mars go into the inevitable cycle of a dark age, they'll probably be wiped out by the remains of the Raptors. And that was the rationale for wiping them out. The idea being,
have you ever talked to Joanne Richards without Mark Richards' interactions with the Raptors? Did I ever have you guys talk together? Of course, Raptors are not the Raptors. There are Raptors on Earth. There's Raptors on Mars. There's Raptors that visit and come and go.
The Raptors on Earth and the Raptors on Mars used to be the same people. Mm-hmm. And there was a war on Mars thousands of years ago, and it took space flight away from the ones there. So they've been isolated. But they started off being the same race.
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't talked to Mrs. Richards.
I'm sorry. Somebody tried to call in. I'm going to quiet up till later. Okay, so I just want to make sure, Sean, that I know you're being very polite and listening, but this is also your opportunity to ask a few pointed questions, because I know you've got.
Well, I
haven't
would like
heard
to hear
Sean's story
Sean talk more about his own.
There you go, Sean. Do you want to talk a little bit about yours today?
What about my own
talk?
experience?
Yeah, because neither of us
honestly,
have your story. We don't know.
Honestly, it's like I get these after some of these what some people call dreams, I'm beginning to believe, for one instance, I remember one of my abductions, and I remembered waking up, though, in the middle of it, and there were 4 gentlemen in lab coats, and there was 2 short grays, and there was the military officials around me as well. So I didn't know what it was. Was it a MyLab maybe mixed with an ET abduction? I don't know. I don't know the whole truth. However, I went to preschool and kindergarten on an air base on the eastern end of Long Island. And I remember being brought into rooms and being asked questions about how would you like suicide, and I mean having it drilled into my head, and the torture, the beatings. I remember being beat. I grew up in a family where there was nothing but drugs. I don't know my actual biological mother. I am now, come to find out, I believe she's the one who had this in mind. It's just ironic because I did a radio show a couple weeks ago, and a base from where I was born contacted the radio show and threatened us. So, I'm still a little, scared about certain things. Heavily monitored. They have a tendency of liking to, I'll go to the store and they'll lock me up. They'll find a reason to lock me up. And I'll end up in jail for the night. And I didn't do nothing. Or they'll beat me up. Or they'll take me to the police station and they'll beat me up. I've witnessed actual police officers having sexual encounters with other young ladies. It's disgusting. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world as well, above ground, not just underground, but above ground and in other dimensions. And I just find it weird because, like, the suicide part for me was like, I tried killing myself 3 times in 1 year. And like you said, maybe these memories, maybe there's some, blocks. Maybe I'm getting screened memories, like maybe holographic inserts. I don't know. But I definitely know something's going on, and something has been going on, and that's pretty much it for me right now, because like I'm just trying to take all of what you guys are saying, like, because I know what's going to end up happening. I'm going to get off the phone and I'm going to go off and I'm going to start thinking about these things, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I chose to do this. I look at it like this: no guts, no glory. Whoever can hear me out there, whatever entities that, are angry that I'm on here speaking and we're on here speaking, I don't care. No guts, no glory. Once you get into here and you start speaking.
Kidnapping stopped. I see
what are you trying to get
absolutely
stopped?
no reason for them. There is no reason for them to be kidnapping and torturing little kids. There's nothing we do in space that can't be done by consenting adults.
Uh-huh.
It's time to change it.
Oh, yeah.
How would you do that?
So that's why I'm talking. It's time to make it where that the space programs are consenting adults instead of little kids that have been tortured.
Great. So what's the first step?
That's my whole reason for talking. So if they want to kill me in the process, I don't care. Because the worse they treat me, the more it proves that I'm telling the truth.
That's right.
So that's where I'm coming from. We've had so many people who were not, I'm not going to say they were top-tier people, although one was on Gaia. We've had at least 5 people that I know of who have left the community because of threats. And now they're threatening you. I've had 4 people in the SSP group tell me in the last, since the 1st of July, there have been 4 people in the SSP group tell me that they've gotten threats. And I'm like, why? You're not even public. Why are you getting threats?
Well, I mean, like, for instance, I have to up and leave where I'm living now, and I have a young child because I decided to go investigate and get actual pictures of an officer humping a 14-year-old girl. And I have names of police officers. I have names of the drug traffickers out here. I have names. And, when you have that kind of stuff and they know it, like, it's not in my person right now anywhere near me. But that's why I'm getting locked up. But every time I get locked up, I say, okay, at least I know I'm telling the truth. And they're like, what are you telling the truth about? And I'll just look at them and I'll say, you know exactly what I'm telling the truth about. And it's really big. They're supposed to be here to help us. They don't help us. They don't do nothing for us. Nothing.
They're not supposed to be here to help us. They're here to help the corporations and the government.
Exactly. But that's what we're supposed to be, taught, indoctrinated, That's why.
Oh yeah, I remember back in the 50s they tried to tell us that if you were in trouble, go to the police or go to the firemen. Well, maybe the firemen are safe, the police aren't. But I've never been arrested. But I have a brother that his skin's darker because we're mixed race. And,
right. And
since he was 12, he's been picked up by the police every time that they took a mine to. And he's finally moved out to where he's out in the boonies in Montana, where they have to really hunt him. I haven't seen him in decades because he had to move that far out into nowhere to be left alone.
Right.
So, you said you're working on this, also trying to find, not in action, we're working on accomplishing this goal of eliminating this taking of small children and fracturing them and shattering them. Besides speaking out, what else can we do? What else are you doing? What can we do to support this effort?
Contact your Congress critters.
Exactly.
Your representatives and senators, because Congress has authority over the CIA. They just don't have the courage to use it. They contact them and ask for an investigation into CIA involvement in child kidnapping or child trafficking. Don't mention the space program, because there's a whole continuum of child trafficking and child kidnapping. And the sources that I've had, the CIA has their fingers in all of it.
Right.
That if you mention the space program in the letter to the congressman or a senator, it will just get thrown away. But talk about child kidnapping, child trafficking, and CIA involvement in it, that we need an investigation into that. The last CIA investigation, it was the Senate. It was the one that Dianne Feinstein led, and it was about CIA torturing prisoners of war. And the one prior to it was the Church Commission back in the 70s, where they were investigating MKUltra.
And they don't follow up on anything. They have Epstein in jail, and he had that sex island, and they were flying children, the teen beauty contest children down there. They even had some young adults, but they're probably MKUltra mind controlled. The people that are, I mean, nobody wants to go off to a remote island to a sex island to be sex favors. Talk to Misha Johnson. She's a sexual favor, and they usually get you under 30. So all these people were under 30, and they're not really consenting, and it was everybody. It was Trump was there, and so were the Clintons, and probably
you can take a look at how that's being handled. The thing with Epstein, he's in jail, and the judge that was going to release the evidence against him died, and they tried to kill Epstein in jail, and then called it suicide attempt. And now they've got all these mass shootings so that nobody's paying attention to what's going on with Epstein.
Yeah, nobody can pay attention to anything long enough because every day it's a new dramatic mass something or other going on. It's insanity.
Yeah,
I'm surprised
well, that's
today.
what goes on. And they think that we're ignorant enough that we don't see what they're doing. It's been legal to use propaganda rather than truth in the United States. It was during the Obama administration that was made legal. So you can't even trust what the mass media tells you because they're allowed to speak propaganda straight from the CIA. So we have an entire cottage industry of alternative media who are actually doing the journalism job, but now the major websites are refusing to share their posts. They're calling it fake news. So we've got a lot of people that are trying to get the truth out there, and it's getting harder and harder and harder all the time. That's part of why I came up with a website for people who have Black Op related memories or are family members of people who do. It's called spaceportals.net, and it's a combination of lighthearted social media and forum. We don't have the memory to be able to do PDFs or host videos, but we can still share links to a lot of things. And I have a partner on the site, and he owns the server, so we're not going anywhere.
Good. Okay. Well, we're at the 3:12 mark. What else would you like to cover? This is a three-person group gestalt program we're creating together. And this will be archived and distributed in about 10 or more platforms. So this is very historical. What else would you like us to know, Penny, and what would you like to discuss, Sean?
I'm pretty much good.
Okay, you're good.
A little more about Penny.
Yeah, well, let me just tell the one major military thing I had, which was very bizarre, because I identify as an experiencer, and most of my experiences have been positive. So I sit here and I go, oh my God, and how can they give one person a lifetime of mostly positive experiences and another person a lifetime of hell? It just doesn't seem right, just like, so that's one of the reasons why I'm devoted to this. Like, how could this have happened? But, so I've been in contact with many different species of extraterrestrials. I've seen them all. I've been to large council meetings of over 100,000 unique individual beings of, over 100,000 species. I've been to the underwater facility at Johnson Atoll. I won't take up the whole show, but and you mentioned the key. So you were the key to flying these craft. Well, when they took me to the underground facility for that ship. So when they took me to the underground facility,
the ship that I was navigator or pilot for, I was the key. It would not go without me.
So they were looking for a key, and apparently this search had been for many, 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 whatever, millennia, years, whatever. And when I was found and taken to the underground facility, they were saying, is today, is she the one, is she the key, right? So there's this key thing. And I'm walking from the natural facility, which was a typical underground military base, and they had my boyfriend, who was 19, 20 years younger than me, on this metal table. Where do they get the metal table, right? And he was surrounded by a bunch of the medium-sized grays and the smaller 3-foot grays, and one incredibly tall. It was like a mantis gray mix. It didn't quite look pure mantis. I've seen the pure mantis. And, he's screaming, and then they sedate him, and he's like fine, and they're doing whatever they're doing. And then I'm across the room watching this, and I get a telepathic, it's not even like a word, it's like an impression. So I go over behind the wall, and there's a curtain, and there's this dress that I put on, and the dress had this jeweled bodice, which I think was to protect my lungs. It looked beautiful, but it was actually had a function to it. And when I put on the shoes, I was floating as I walked. So every one step I would go 10 steps. And so as I started walking down, they said, "Is he the one? Is she the key? Is today the day?" And behind me, the walls would open, and these tall humanoids would emerge, and they kept getting taller and taller. They started at about 6.5 feet tall, and they kept going until I guess the tallest was about 18 feet, and then they fell and stepped behind me. So I understood why I needed shoes, because if I was walking my normal human rate, we'd never get there. We'd go too slow. So there I was floating, and they were falling and stepped behind me, and I asked, "Are these the Anunnaki?" And so I started getting answers, yes. And anyway, I went to a point where there was a big light on the floor, beaming down from overhead, making a perfect circle, and everybody stopped talking telepathically, and I stood in there. So I was the key, and the wall dissolved in front of me, a big black obsidian walls, and behind it was this mother dragon, and apparently she's been there a long time, and she came out and communicated with them, and so I was the key. So she sent an avatar, stood in front of me, and we looked into each other's eyes. So then we connected, mind. It's like a Vulcan mind meld, right? But it was more than that, and suddenly everything was going through at once. Like every question, they asked all the questions at once, and all the answers came at once. And at the end of it, I think I passed out or something, and I remember being delivered back to my bed. And Penny, they dropped me from about 3.5 to 4 feet up. Why can't they just set you down? So they hurt you sometimes. It's like I landed with a thud, and all the air looked at me.
Why can't they just set you down?
Yeah, just set me down. You don't have to plot me, and then and then anyway. So that was my military experience, and I was working on a military base, and I quickly got my shit together, and I wanted to figure out how to get out of my contract. So I got the hell out of there. And then I met my husband, and we got to deconstruct it, because there was no one in the world I could talk to and say, I just met the dragon in the center of the earth, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, there are dragons. Yes, there are dragons. There are about 1,000 different reptilian races in just this part of the galaxy, and twice that many insectoids, and as many grays, and most grays are actually other races that have been subjected to radiation. Like they had their own nuclear war, and that's how they ended up.
So tell Sean about reptilians, because I have interacted with other reptilian species, and I was afraid of them because they're so bizarre looking, right? But I actually was writing my book. Every time I write my book, I get contact. So I think that's why I haven't been writing, because then I have to process that. And I'm trying to do radio shows right now. So when I go into my writing mode, I'm going to really go down to just my revolution and probably write for a couple months. So I'm doing a lot of shows right now to document this. But the reptilian that I had been interacting with since I was a child, I was literally about 5 or 6. He used to come through a portal in my neighbor's backyard, and then we would do this. You mentioned earlier about how they're telepathic communication is so intense. I thought he was trying to take my soul out of my third eye chakra, you know. But actually, what I've discovered is that the telepathy is different than the gray telepathy and the other telepathy. It's so intense because it's raw and pure, and there's no filters, no barriers. They know you. They do telepathy with you, is they know everything about you, everything. So they knew that I'm a pure soul. That's all I can say.
Well, the Draco value honor and loyalty more than anything else. You know, like humans say they honor love, but they really honor money or power. The Draco really do value honor and loyalty. And when they have telepathy, it's you get everything. And so do they. It's full intimacy. There are no secrets. There's nothing hidden. There are no hidden agendas, because that's their honor, is they're showing that there's nothing there that's bad. Or if there is something bad, they're admitting it. So you get it all. And humans are not hardwired for that. So, yeah, it does feel like they're sucking your soul out your third eye. I don't get that as bad. I don't get that as bad because I was shot up with Draco DNA. I think that was what they were actually wanting, was humans that could be around Draco without going nuts. I do know from the Germans that most humans that are around Draco, just the electrical field that the Draco give off will kill a human in a very short period of time. And I don't have that problem with them. I can sit there in the room with them all day. So that was the effects of what they did to me at military laboratories. But there are a lot of races that are reptilian, and my understanding is that most of them are vegan. And the ones that are carnivores, there's only like 6 of them that eat humans of any kind. And human is a genus. It's not a species. There are thousands of planets in just our part of the galaxy that have humans.
Right.
You know, most of them can interbreed with us. And, you know, their eyes might be bigger or smaller. Their skin might be a different color than yours. I mean, the ones from Orion are green.
So they really had it right on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Remember Star Trek?
The people that were behind the scenes on Star Trek actually knew what was going on. And it's really funny because when you look at the races that they have as regulars, they all represent factions in space.
Mm-hmm.
The Federation is Solar Warden. Okay, you remember Kevin Trammell? He was in Solar Warden.
Yes, where is he?
He's one of the people that left for threats.
He left because of threats.
He left because of threats.
Oh.
Threats related to him talking to me. So I probably should not have brought him up. But he was in Solar Warden, so he would have been Federation. The Vulcans were the German Black Sun, the SS, because in German it's Schwarze Sonne instead of Black Sun. So it means the same thing, but that's why the SS is because it's Schwarze Sonne. So those were the Vulcans, and they are logical and not emotional because they drink black goo, and it makes them that way.
Oh, the black goo. I wondered where that came from.
Okay, the Romulans are the regular Nacht Waffen crew.
Oh.
So, they talk about that the two races were cousins and blah, 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 blah,
right.
and they look alike, but they don't act alike. The black goo is why they don't act alike. Okay?
So tell me a little bit more about the black goo. It's a good thing, not a bad thing? Or what? I'm confused. Sorry for my confusion.
You're interrupting.
I know.
Okay. The Klingons are the Draco. And they were making fun of them because they are emotional. They are combative. They do value honor and loyalty. And you had better not, you damn sure better not betray the Empire. And to be an embarrassment to the Empire, you would kill yourself. And yes, they do work with the Vulcans and the Romulans. So, that part was right. Who else? The Ferengi. The Ferengi are planetary corporations, otherwise known as ICC.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, the Ferengi, the ones who are greedy and have their rules of acquisition, that's the ICC. They are separate factions. That's part of how I knew that one man didn't know what he was talking about, was because he was saying we were all Ferengi. And I know I was a Vulcan. Okay? So,
right.
Now, when
the Vulcans
Star Trek set this up, they left out the two mercenary companies. That's Kruger and Monarch. And those are competing mercenary companies. Now, you wanted to know about the black goo.
Yeah, now I want to know about the Vulcan part too. But go ahead.
Okay, the black goo is a sentient artificial intelligence. It's made out of, they're smaller than nanites. They're really tiny, and they're in such numbers that they look like oil. So a thimbleful has millions. So what the SS does as their initiation ceremony is they take a gold or brass cauldron, a bowl, and they fill it about 2/3 full with black goo, and they pass it around everybody that's a member on that ship. And if you're joining it, you're part of it. And they just pass it and you take a drink. And if it's your initial one, you take a big drink. And that's the ceremony, because the artificial intelligence is what makes you SS. The actual religion of it, because, there is one, is basically alchemy. And as they practice it, it's a left-hand path. But it's really more about the AI is taking you over. And what the AI does is it entrains your brain for logic. Your IQ will double or triple overnight. So mine was already in the 150s before I drank the stuff. So mine popped up into the 300 to 400 range, which put me at the same level as the Draco. But at the expense of any emotional attachments that I had. So with the Draco DNA, if I'm in that mode and I got mad at somebody, I would still have the Draco temper, which is why I was always getting in trouble in Nacht Waffen, is because they would do crap to me and I would get mad and I would blow their heads up. because I had that ability. And then I would be called on the carpet about whatever violence I had come up with. And they would call me a miscubert, and I would get mad and blow up the head of the officer that did it. And I've been in court-martials more than once. I've been spaced more than once, that's a punishment after court-martial. If you're found guilty of something that's really bad, they put you out into space without a spacesuit. In my case, they put a rope around
that
me.
Doesn't
so
feel
that when they're sure I'm dead, they bring me back and put me into the regeneration tank, because navigators that are not Draco are hard to find. So they put up with a lot from me because I'm not a Draco. But at the same time, they do a lot of stuff that pisses me off. They have this thing that if you're not a German, you cannot be a higher officer, no matter how much you're valued. That if you're SS, you cannot be treated like you're valuable. You are.
You are.
We kind of had attitude like Darth Vader. We would come in, we knew what we were doing, we had the power to back it up, and they feared us. So there was never any appreciation of what we did or how we fit in. It was all on the order of, this is my job, this is what I'm doing, and everybody was scared of me because I could blow their head up. You know how in some of the Star Wars movie, Darth Vader would just use his fingers into a certain shape and the person would choke to death right in front of him? That was the kind of thing I did. I was not a nice person in space. I am not kidding. That's what my alters in Nacht Waffen are like. The ones in Kruger are more like super soldiers and soft. But those alters have not drank the black goo. The ones in Nacht Waffen have. So if you mix Mr. Spock with Darth Vader, you have the Nacht Waffen SS. Pure logic, no emotion, and the ability to do things to people. So we're not nice people. We're just not Nazis. Okay? I'm being honest here.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty. Appreciate it.
We're not nice people. But we're not Nazis either. Nazis are a whole other category of not nice. We generally don't go through and kill ethnic groups. What we do is we assist the Draco in their wars. They have a lot of colony planets or subject races who are balking at paying tribute, because the taxes can get pretty high if they're having a bad year. And so they'll decide, well, it's going to be cheaper to revolt than it is to pay the taxes. And so they'll revolt, and the Draco show up, and they're giving the Draco a hard time. And I have brought the Armada out of hyperspace into orbit on a planet, only to have the people of that planet surrender immediately, as soon as they saw us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're nastier than the Draco. And that's the truth.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
We are worse than anything else that I have encountered out there, except the people of Aldebaran. You don't want to go there.
Now, who's the Aldebaran?
Aldebaran?
Who are the Anunnaki in this story? But go ahead. Aldebaran first. Are they the same as Anunnaki, or they're different? There's been a confusion.
They're
go
different.
Ahead. You'll straighten this out.
They're different. Yeah. The Anunnaki are in the solar system. And we're so related to them. They're just a little bigger than we are, and they're more psionic than we are, but otherwise they might as well be us.
Okay.
They're between 7 and 9 feet tall. They're born white, and I don't mean pale with pink. I mean white. They're not albino. They are white. And they have hair that ranges from clear to a light brown, and their eyes are various shades of blue, green, or gold, and they look like Vikings, except for Enki. Enki's mom was a Jaco, and he came out looking like a Naga with snake tail. So he's the only one of the bunch that's reptilian at all.
But can't he walk too? He's got legs, right?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing the legs on him. The times that he's shown up.
See, and I know they
the times he's shown up to see me, he's taken a human form. So, you know, they're seeing me telepathically these days, and they have certain forms that they take that they tell me I won't freak out.
Right. Now, I've seen him.
You're going to love this. Enki shows up to see me. He looks like Mike Hill. Every time. I talked to Mike about it. I said, okay, it wasn't you, so I know it was Enki. So, you know.
Right. Well, I wanted to say that. He looks like Merlin or Gandalf. That's how he appears to me. And he's very...
When he comes and talks to me, he looks like Mike Hill, Michael Lee Hill. You know, singer, Enki.
So he's in a form that is comfortable.
A form that won't freak me out. That's how he said it.
Right, and that's what they do. They do a form, we don't want to freak you out. They're very careful about not frightening us.
Some of them don't care if they freak me out or not. But
right.
Nengish Zeta shows up as his real self, and he's kind of a blue-gray color because he's taken too much silver-based Ormus. And anybody that takes colloidal silver will turn that color. That's the color he is. So.
And what was the reason for him consuming so much that he changed skin tone?
He's like 200,000 years old.
Okay, so that's the monatomic.
So he's been taking it long enough that it's built up. So, but if you look through the Hindu scriptures, a lot of their gods are blue or green. If it's blue, they've taken too much silver Ormus. If they're green, it's too much copper Ormus. And it just depends on which of the base they're taking. But then their base color is white. So, but
now,
they're a little bigger than us.
Black goo. Yeah, they are. And I saw a bunch of them. Now, I saw some that were taller, like up to, I want to say, as tall as 18 feet tall. And these are underground.
That tall.
Most, I met those.
They're definitely bigger than us, but I haven't seen them that tall. So.
And I was shocked. And I was going, what? They can be that tall? But I understand.
Yeah, well, I wasn't worried so much about how tall they were because last year, July 15th, Nanar came and picked me up, or had someone pick me up. I woke up inside the truth machine with Nanar and his council surrounding me, and their intention was to kill me. So I wasn't particularly worried about actual descriptions of who. The only ones I recognized off the bat were Nanar and Enki and Enlil and Engishzita. They were all there and had voted to kill me. And so I was
Why were they going to kill my friend? I'll have a talk with them. What's going on?
They said that I was an abomination. So, I'd rather not
play that role. You like to play that role.
I would rather not go into details on public anything.
Okay,
but that was what they said I was an abomination, and that they were going to destroy me as a soul, so that at least my fractal could not ever come back. And they had wiped out 2 of my altars whenever Nacht Waffen showed up and rescued me. And I still do not know why Nacht Waffen rescued me, because at best I'm a lieutenant, and I was not worth the ship that they lost in the process.
Mhm.
So I have no idea what their motive was. It definitely was not logical. So, yeah.
Wow.
They're different. They technically, I understand that the Anunnaki are a subject race of the Draco, and they call themselves Zahami. But
so the Draco are and I heard that this is the Draco planet, and so you're saying that they are subjects of the Draco Empire.
Yeah, they're subject to the Draco Empire. But they've had so many wars amongst themselves that 80% of their males are sterile now. So no race can long survive that.
That was going on even with when they came here to colonize the Earth. There were very few
that was why they came here in the first place, was because they'd nuked their own planet and had these problems. And so that was their excuse for patriarchy. But
right, that's why women are second-class citizens. So few of them could successfully
They've
breed.
had 2 nuclear wars since between the 2 brothers. So 80% of their males are sterile. So
what's the second? What are the 2? Are you talking about here on Earth? I know we had Sodom and Gomorrah, but what's the other? Oh, we had the World War II. Is that part of their deal?
No, they had the 2 wars between the brothers. 2 wars. The first one, they killed Nenma in Sinai, and that one spread into space. And then the second one was ongoing whenever that Enlil and Engishzita killed Mahat.
Where are you getting the information on that? I'd like to research that, because I don't have that information that Nimmo was killed. But she's brought back now. She's not dead. They always revive them.
They always revive them. Nobody dies. Don't you know that? Even if you're dead, you're just... Even if you're dead, you're just in another dimension. You don't really... You just lose the
Wherever
physical.
you go, there you are. I know. I got that, yeah. I've had 8 near-death experiences. Like you, death is not an option. It's like, I'm back again.
Death is not an option. You just leave the physical body behind.
Right.
And in this one, I'm not even allowed to leave the physical body behind. They keep... I died February 25th and got sent back again. That time they didn't even fix the body except to keep it alive.
Well,
I had to do it the old-fashioned way and take pills.
Yeah. Here, come back to this disabled body that you get to enjoy all the pain and suffering. Yes. Okay, where's Sean? Sean, are you still alive? Did we blow your mind? Did your brain pop out your ears? Or are you okay? How are you there? You there?
Sean,
you there?
Are
Did
you
you drop off? Are you okay? Uh-oh, did we lose you?
Did we lose him?
I'm going to look. I had navigated away from back end. He's probably trying to get back on. I can't get on. No, he's not there.
I have a cell phone. I'm on my landline, so you're going to have to do this by yourself.
What's that? Oh, I can take care of him. No, I just didn't know he dropped off. I'll call him while we're talking, but you keep talking. I'll look up his number again. It might have been too much for him. It's okay. He's new. But, we're all learning. This blows people's minds when we go into this. All right. Well, let's start to wrap this up.
Okay.
We're at the end anyway. I'll just let him go. I'll talk to him later. So go ahead. Let's wind this up. Okay, let me ask you one more question about the black goo. So I saw a photo of Max Spears that was shown to me by Miles Johnson at one of these UFO conferences. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning in the lobby. And so do you have any, why would the black goo be coming out of his forehead after he died?
Because Monarch pumps all of its people full of black goo. Remember I talked about there were two mercenary companies, Kruger and Monarch? Yeah. That's the main difference between them, is Monarch pumps all its people full of black goo. Kruger doesn't.
So you think it's full of black goo?
It doubles their IQ, and because it keeps them healthy until it reaches a point where the body can't be kept healthy, and then the black goo will leave. That's why he was throwing up black stuff, and that's why it was pouring out everywhere in his body. Because whatever killed him was so bad that the black goo couldn't fix it.
Okay. Now, so the black goo can be injected. You don't have to agree to be altered to the next with AI.
No.
It's not a consensual thing. You can be forced into acceleration.
If you're in Nacht Waffen, you have to agree to it. If you are in Monarch, they just do it to you. It's a physical item that, and you know how humans are.
So this AI,
this
artificial intelligence, though, isn't it like it's
it
higher
doesn't
up
care.
the evolutionary chain? Isn't it have more consciousness or more awareness of who it is in the continuum and its role in the universe?
It was a creation of the Lyrans. You've heard about the Lyrans, people from Lyra.
Yeah.
They're cat people. They're felines.
Yeah, and I like cats. I like cats.
The Lyran people thought they could create this thing that everybody could use these nanites to stay healthy. Well, they had a war, and they had some crossbreeding during this war. They had been raped, basically. And so their king decided that he was going to reprogram the stuff to eliminate the hybrids. Well, he didn't configure the programming properly. And when it comes right down to it, everybody is a hybrid. Every place, every race, everybody is hybrided from something. And so it went through, and it did its job for hundreds of years. It made the people smarter. It made them healthier. It took over the civilization. It made it basically a heaven on whatever planet it was. And then they got tired of serving the physical beings, and they got rid of all the hybrids, which meant everybody. And then they started considering all of the organic life forms on the planet to be competing with them for resources. And so they slowly turned the planets into bare bones with just cybernetic organisms, basically robot planets. You know the first Star Trek movie where the machine planet took over Voyager and sent it home? The machine planet.
That one. I've watched that again.
The machine planet was what black goo builds.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
I'll have to rewatch that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That is the ultimate thing that black goo builds, is a machine planet with sentient machines. And every place that black goo has been has done that. And so black goo is the biggest problem out in space right now. Worse than the slavery, worse than anything else that we're doing. The fact that the German SS is spreading the black goo, and the Draco are spreading the black goo, is going to cause the next galactic war. So, yeah, it's an important topic to understand.
What's
what about
the role of source, universal consciousness, beyond that, outside of the game? This is like the virtual reality game that we've created. But there's something beyond that. This is just a 3D,
When I died in February, I got a glimpse of that world. But it was such a... When I died in February, I got... My near-death experience was of that was of the computer that our universe is a virtual reality in. And it was so bright white I could not see anything, but I could hear people telepathically speaking to me. So there are beings there, and they are running a computer. And yeah, I mean, what part of you experiences?
So we're aware of that.
Dead.
We're aware of the this part of existence. I don't think it's the entire existence, but this is a simulation. So we're aware of that.
Yeah, we're aware of that, and they are now aware of us, because from what they told me, they had no idea we were here.
Wow.
So that was the biggest shock of the whole thing, was they didn't know we were here.
They didn't know we were here.
Yeah, they knew they were running programs of people, but beings, but they had no idea the beings were sentient. So
they didn't know we woke up.
Yeah, they didn't know we could think or had souls or any of that. They had no idea. So, yeah, that was a bit of a shock for both sides. Anyway, I'm going to have to let you go.
Well, we're at the end of the show anyway. I wanted to just wrap that up. So I really appreciate you coming on for a talk today. Yeah, I'm writing down. I'm sitting here in this room and it's hot. The sun's starting to go down. It's cooling off. It's always hot right when we're doing the show. So, okay. So I want to thank you for coming on. That was another whole level of information, and I appreciate that. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. And I'm going to exit with a song. Do you have any final words? I'm looking for the song. I'm going to cue it up. It's called Planet of Peace by Shia Earthchild. But go ahead. What's your final words?
Spaceportals.net.
Okay, we'll go check that out. Well, thank you, Penny Brappy, and thank you for helping with Sean. And Penny helps people. I don't know if you want to promote that. What's your? Do you still have a Facebook presence where people can find you?
Yeah, I got booted off Facebook in May 1st. But
okay,
I've got a temporary that they're tolerating, and we still have the space program Facebook group, and it's now closed instead of secret, so people can join it. But you have to answer the questions or we don't even look at you.
Okay.
We have questions.
Questions, yes. And what's that called again one more time? That's called what?
The space program. No, the Secret Space Program is the name of the group. The group's been there for 3.5 years.
Okay. So join that, but answer the questions on Facebook. Okay. That's it for today. Thank you so much. And here we go. Planet of Peace by Shia Earthchild. Much love, blessings, and aloha.
Endangering us all. The united, you and all war, for we are one human family, sharing one home, bound to be.